This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. My name is Shawn. I'm an innovation strategist. What we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life. Oh, wow. Hey, everyone. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. My name is Shawn. In this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life, change your business, change your career, but most importantly, change your life. And we have a special guest in the building, Sarah McVanel. She is Canada's recognition expert. She's an author, she's a thinker, she's one of the best speakers that I've ever seen. And I'm so excited that you have descended into Edmonton, Alberta, Canada on a snowy day. Thank you so much.
You were my first stop, my friend.
That's crazy.
I could not wait to come and have an in-person conversation with you.
And what I love is that you brought a suitcase full of books.
Yeah.
Which is
when the clients want it and it's a postal strike, you just pack extra suitcases and you lug them yourself.
You are the post office right now.
I am the post office right now.
You are doing the post office job, which is so cool. And I'm just so excited that you're here because, you know, we were just talking right before coming here, or when you came here, that, you know, I met you in 2019. I went to Niagara for a conference and I sat at the back of the room. I can't remember where I sat, but I was just enthralled with your presentation around recognition. I was so impressed because you were like going around the room. You were just like, and I can't, right after the presentation, so many people came up to you. It was just like, it was like seeing a movie, and just somebody at the peak of their powers in that room, and you just own that room, and it was just so cool to see. And that was the last time I actually saw you in person, and that was 5 years ago.
Yeah,
crazy. Now I see you here.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I see you all the time because I am your biggest content consumer. I love everything that you're doing. You're right. I mean, in the room, I try to make sure, and you do a great job of this too, I want the people who I have the privilege of speaking for to feel like the most important people in the world. I want them to feel like I have spent my time, I have dedicated my career to get to the point where we're having this conversation.
Yeah. I,
like you, take it really seriously, that people don't think what we talk about is just trends or fluffy. I want them to take something. I want them to get addicted to the idea of implementing it right away.
Yes.
And I love how which is how you've inspired me, I love how you level it up even farther. You're like, not only do I believe that you should do this, I'm going to remind you of the juicy nuggets so that you can rewatch it.
Yes. Well, that is something that I'm proud of, which is getting the content and, you know, getting people to think about it, to see it again, even the people that are not there. So,
exactly.
That's a big part of what I love, and it's the reason why I love this space. And we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But I was like so excited to have you here because I need some help. Okay, this is very deeply personal because, so I've been thinking a lot about my second book, and
waiting for it. Snaps.
And I have been so passionate about this idea of status. It is embedded in the writing that I had with my last book around the bold ones. I talk about it all the time. And I love status because status is the reason why we do things. It's the reason why we have incredible innovations, that we want something that someone else has. Like, that's why we do great things. It's because we're like, we think there's something better and we see it. But it's also the reason that sort of holds us back, right? It's the idea that we get trapped with our own success, our own status. I see status as not just it's not just about elites or wealth or luxury. It's actually about how you feel valued and respected and admired by others.
Yes.
And that's a big
You can't buy that.
You can't. And that's a big driver of how we work. Now, you are the recognition expert. How does recognition differ from the idea of status? Using my definition of status, which is status is about being valued and admired and respected by others. How does recognition differ from status? And I need help because I am speaking with a massive publisher on Tuesday. And I need to clarify my thoughts because they're gonna dissect me to a T, and I just need to like get my ducks in order.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited. You probably remember as soon as that book was out, I just devoured it.
Yes.
Devoured
Thank
it.
you.
So I can't wait for this. So I'm thrilled to be part of the incubator here to think
Yes.
about it. So where I think you're disrupting the space on status is what you're talking about is more in line with what I describe as recognition. So status is usually about titles. It's about what you can buy. It's about what, it's an external validation of worth and worthiness. And that is a trap because people can take it away anytime. People can change it at any point. And we don't have agency if we are constantly trying to strive for something else that other people have defined as this successful marker. And we also get obsessed in organizations about measures and metrics and processes that a lot of times you ask those people who are working on those projects, what's it about? They don't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
And yet our reward cycles are often tied to those. So now we're rewarding people for something that they don't even remember the origin or the purpose of it. So I think how you're redefining status is actually more around recognition. So recognition is people feeling seen, heard, and valued, which when we do it well, it taps into people's intrinsic motivation. What drives them? So what if in a world that we tend to value status was not externally defined? Worthiness was not something that somebody tells you have. You don't get status based on what you've been born into or where you sit, how big your office is. What if it were how you show up in the world? In alignment with your values, in alignment with the purpose, in alignment with what we say we are all about. If there's alignment and it is for greater good, I mean, that is like lasting impact.
Okay.
I feel like it's recognition. I feel it's
I don't want to compete against you in this space.
We need a bigger pie, my friend. Yeah.
Okay, so the idea of feeling value, but so can I just I just want to dissect this for a second.
Do it.
The idea of feeling valued and respected and admired by others.
Yes.
That I think that's recognition.
So here's what makes recognition meaningful is when somebody recognizes you and it's what it matters to you. That's when it really lands.
Yes.
So status perhaps is that intersection. I'm building it in my mind. I'm thinking of two circles here. Maybe status is in the middle because what other people value and what I value, the piece that's in the middle is probably status. And that's what we opt into. That's what I choose to do. That's where I choose to spend my time, my discretionary effort. That's where I want to show up. I want the bigger title. For BIPOC women, for example, that's where they're willing to work even harder to get into the C-suite, not because they necessarily want the title, because they need to walk in the footsteps of their mentors.
Right.
So that's I don't know if they're doing it for the status because it's been a hard grind to get there. I think they're doing it because they have something to prove or maybe other people to prove wrong. And it matters, it's personal. And so the title goes with a way of validating the work.
Right. So I want to take this idea of recognition and think about what does recognition actually mean in a digital world? I know about recognition personally, which is, somebody says, hey, you did a great job.
Yep.
Is there something different about digitally getting recognition than in person?
Well,
is there some science around that?
There's a number of companies that do recognition really well.
Yeah.
And then they've found ways to make it digital. And the benefit of that is that people who are in remote locations, if you've got a global company and you've got a really strong culture of making sure that people feel appreciated and celebrating milestones of projects, for example, if you didn't have a digital solution, it would be really hard to maintain that. So it's a great way to augment what's already working. What doesn't work is when people are leveraging points or, e-cards, and there's nothing behind it. It's just kind of like, it's your anniversary, and so the HRIS system just blasts it out and just sends it to your inbox. But just like being given a title, being given status, and it not being something you earned, you don't really value it so much. So on just a basic fundamental level, I think any company needs to be really concerned about a digital solution to recognition as being something you can just buy off the shelf.
I want to take this idea and apply it to social.
Okay.
Because I feel like, and I'm getting, because you said that this idea of, let's just assume that we're talking about recognition here, not status. Because I need to, this is helpful. I'm going to review this tape and make sure that I rewatch this so I'm clear when I have my meeting on Tuesday. I feel like there's a lot of young people, I mean everyone, they feel validated, they feel recognized when they get a like or they get a comment or they get a share on social media. And that's that dopamine hit that we get.
It's a reward. That's not recognition.
Oh, okay. That's a reward.
Yeah, it's a reward because it's externally validating. They posted something cute. They said something nice. You're super inspired by that meme you shared. Recognition is when somebody says, you live this quote, or I always feel better when I see your feed. You make me feel like I can take on the rest of the day.
Okay, so the likes, the comments, the shares, that's a reward.
That's a reward.
That's
a token. That's part of the difference, I think. And I'm so glad we're digging into this because this is literally the biggest barrier people have to truly being able to lean into recognition.
Right.
Because as you say, we all know what it's like to be recognized and we like it. It's important to know that somebody that we tried to do our best for, our kids, you and I have both been married for a while. We want our spouses to, to feel like we're adding value to their lives. And so when they say it in a meaningful way, it really lands with us, right? So when you show up for people and you want to make sure that you demonstrate that you care for them, you love them, or even just that you're working hard for them, you need to know that they have paid attention to that on a personal level. Like if your wife says to you, hey, thanks. You're like, well, what's the thumbs up and the hey for? What did I do that's great? And this is part of, I think, where we have this amazing opportunity, again, for this conversation around status, is to pull apart what we rely on other people to validate versus the things that we do because we want to make people's day better. We want to make sure they know that they mattered. Like that thing that you did, even if you're just doing your job, or even people paid you to show up and speak. You didn't have an option. You booked it, you showed up, you did a great job. What is the best compliment that somebody's given you recently after a speech? You're rewarded with the fee. But then you were recognized by the people. What's one of the most recent compliments you've received and it really hit you in the feels?
Well, to me, it's the idea that I remember I was in Cartagena and I took a taxi with my agent to the airport, and then somebody at the conference was in the front seat, and she said that, your presentation was so powerful. We literally, my CEO and I, we literally, remapped our entire strategy, like right after your presentation. I was like,
yes,
that was
worth the flight.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just thought about that so much that they did something, like they went off and they did something. That's the greatest recognition that somebody could get. It's like I did something around this.
So my question to you, my friend, is now that you had that, the very next event, how did you show up at that very next event? That client's done, they've gone and they've done their map. Are you like,
Well, I'm never like that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
I just mean, like, did you bring them mentally in your heart, in your head, in your soul? Did you bring them back onto the stage with you after that compliment? I bet you did. No?
I mean, I just try to, I try to just do the best job that I can I don't know if I'm actively, maybe subconsciously I am. I don't know if I'm actively doing that. But that's a good point.
Well, I'm curious if it's part of the feedback loop is, so they took that and they built it into a one-page strategy plan right away. How will I get people to be able to do that more? Like, I know that's what I do, right?
No, you're absolutely right. When somebody says, this piece was impactful, you're right. I do. Number one, I don't take it out.
That's right.
I leave that in.
That's called the feedback loop.
I leave that piece in, and I'm like, okay, I need to and that's why I love social media, because when I put an idea out, and people seem like they resonate with that, I'm like, okay, I got to keep that because people seem to resonate with it. Now, is it a good barometer if something is good or not? I'm not sure. Maybe I do put out stuff and it completely flops, but I still think it's good, and sometimes I just keep that in. I don't know. It does mess with you a little bit, but
if you had to make it perfect, though, and you only were trying to achieve something that was guaranteed to get the reward, I don't think you would be truly living your brand of being a disruption and innovative forefront. Like, you are right. You're not just talking about it, you do it. During COVID, when you took over a theater and you brought your cool team and you said, we're going to do the best virtual speaking experiences that could ever exist. Let's keep doing it. I'm willing to bet you didn't go because I want to make sure I can charge $200 extra. I bet you're like, no, I'm going to show up for my people because that's how much I care about people having an amazing experience, learning experience. I invested a lot in my whole speaking setup. I rebuilt all my keynotes. Like, we did that because we knew that what we did before COVID, if we just tried to MacGyver it together and we didn't reinvent it, we wouldn't really be valuing the people receiving what
100%.
we have to offer. So that is an example of why I think, let's keep coming back to status, why you keep having an elevated status, because you care.
Right.
It's personal to you that people take something with. You don't need them to buy the book. I know you. Yes, people buy the books. Yes, they sign it. They need to get the strategy on the plan on the napkin with, on the way to the airport, or they bring it home to their kids and they talk about, okay, guys, maybe you don't need to become a doctor. Maybe you can become a professional YouTuber or whatever that thing is. Like, people are often asking about their kids, right? They say, what advice would you give for my kids? Or I'm having a hard time figuring out how to advise my kids in this world about, their career. And that's I think part of showing up to serve people and earning your status every time you turn on the camera, every time you show up to speak, every time you write your book.
I love this idea, which is this idea of earning your status by deeply caring. Okay, I'm almost less confident with my idea now.
I feel like that's what
I need to do some research this weekend. That's actually a brilliant link. I love that.
I feel like amazing. You already had it. You know what I think what we're talking about here, I know what we're talking about here is learning theory. This is the psychology of learning. So behavioralism is about how do you reward the behaviors you want to see more of and extinguish the behaviors that aren't working for you.
Right.
Here's what I kind of feel like you could do.
Okay.
I feel like you could help to extinguish the behaviors that are toxic in our society.
Okay.
Like, what if in fact you were valuable because you worked hard to earn? I think Beyonce has a line like, I earned that bag, as opposed to it's about her having the bag. I don't know, whatever the Birkin, Vuitton. I don't have those
I
bags.
think she's talking about the money.
Yeah. Like
The bag is,
because she earned it, right? I
Right.
mean, I actually really know very little about Beyonce, but anyway, the point is her message is I earned it, right? I have this not like look at me, whereas there's a lot of people in pop culture where it's all about look at the bag, look at the belt, but what about the earning behind it?
Right.
And this is learning theory is it's all about what will make people be more likely to do something again.
Right.
And what gets recognized gets repeated.
Yes.
So anything you want to see us do more of, and that's why I feel like it's a source for good. Your book is a source for good because you're going to help people find innovative ways to create solutions that they didn't see before, to create less hierarchy in organizations so that you weren't roadblocked of being able to create really cool things, of not having to see the glass ceilings, which are all around us, and be able to say, you know what, I'm just going to do it a different way.
Right.
That's what
I like that.
I need you to do, my friend.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay, I'm gonna meditate on this. I think.
Ooh, meditate on it.
Yeah. So okay, I want to unpack this idea of greatness. You're kind of owning this word around greatness, and you had this great quote at the end of the quote. Actually, it's this idea that greatness takes time. Okay, and I think if you say that, I think we all agree that greatness does take time. Makes sense. You know, to be great at anything, you have to put in your hours. But what are there parts of greatness where you actually need to speed it up? Like you actually should be in a rush because you recognize your greatness, or like what should be in a rush when it comes to this idea of greatness?
Yeah. We should be in a rush to fail because that's the only way
Yes.
we iterate.
Yes.
I can't remember which of the founders of Netflix said this, but I was at a conference and I heard him speak. And the only thing I think I took from the whole thing, other than you often almost lose all of your money before you actually win it, which I think we've heard that story a million times before. But his quote was, there's no such thing as a bad idea. There's only ideas that haven't crashed with reality yet. You are obsessed with crushing ideas with reality, and you don't mind getting it wrong. In fact, I think when you get it wrong, it's more endearing to your audience, to
Right.
people who follow your channel. Think of how many times you tried something during COVID to somehow have a speaking business when nobody was able to get together.
Right.
So greatness takes time because you have to keep trying things that don't work, and you have to persevere, and you have to find the lessons, and you have to find not artificial confidence, but simply like unconditionally recognize the effort that goes in to trying to get to the thing that's going to work.
I love that. That is the best response, by the way. It's funny because I just had a call with somebody and she's like, what's your plan for next year? Like, what do we're coming at the end of 2024. What is your plan for 2025? And I said to her that my plan for 2025 is to fail more. Is to fail as much as I can. To take a look at my list of things that I've failed this year and try to double it by next year. Because there's a lot of things that we tried this year that failed a ton.
Yeah.
And we want to fail more next year. And by doing that, it shows that you're willing to take shots. And the more comfortable that you get, the more shots I think that you have to take. So I love that idea. On this idea, I love this idea of greatness because it's so interesting. I love talking to people that are world class at what they do. I don't care if they're like a plumber or if they're like a artist or they're a mathematician or whatever. I love understanding the craft of greatness and how do you become great at something. And the reason I don't know, maybe the reason why I'm so passionate about this idea is that selfishly, like I think of my kids, and I feel like if my kids want to have a really fulfilling and successful life, not only do they have to be great people and like have great friends and build great relationships and be able to learn and fail and all that great stuff and have grit and resilience. But I do fundamentally believe that if they want to have a successful career, that they have to be world class at something. They have to be great at something. I don't care what it is. They could be a great barista, whatever.
Right.
They have to have great, because then they will find, I hope, happiness because they find something that they're great at. But how do you go off and find that and recognize that greatness in yourself so that you're like, I'm gonna keep doubling down and chipping away at this craft?
You have to keep going off the script. You and I have found our way to careers that it wasn't a take your kids to work day and you could go and follow a speaker. There was nobody who came for parent day and somebody was the speaker. I mean, your kids will be able to do that. My kids are too old to want me around. They're adults now, so that's not happening with them. But the point is, besides the fact that we don't even know what careers are going to exist in 5, 10, 15 years, but how could you possibly know yourself well enough when you are having to pick your courses for high school, for college, for university?
Yeah.
So what I tell my kids, and I'm sure you'll tell the same thing, is just pick something that you really are interested in. And then you will figure yourself out in the process. Because so much of learning what you want to do and being great at something is you really want to be great at something. So, I mean, my husband's a teacher in a really high performing school. And it seems like all the parents want these kids to do is be orthodontists and dentists and lawyers and doctors. And guess what the kids generally don't want to be?
Right.
Orthodontists and dentists and doctors. And, But they feel such pressure. They feel pressure to get the grades. They feel pressure to get into certain schools. No, the kids are being asked, what is your greatness? Like, what are you really interested in? And my husband gets in trouble sometimes because he'll say, you know who's going to make money? The trades.
Yes.
If you can build a house, 100%. If you can, design something, if you can solve everybody's problems, like the real world problems, like, how do I keep the boilers running in this building? Somebody's going to pay you to do that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very technically savvy kids. There's a lot of really artistic kids who love music. There's kids who love drama and production, and that's not on the table for those kids.
So I'm curious about this idea of, it obviously you have to persevere to be great at something. Mm-hmm. You almost have to be delusional to be great, to be truly like a one-of-one world class. Because who strives to be like the greatest in the world at something? Like there's an incredible amount of sacrifice and delusion to do that. But also there is some delusion around if you keep on doing something, but you actually don't have it, right? Some people are delusional because they're not going to be able to continue to do something which they'll never be great at. And they continue at it and then they just fall in obscurity. And so it's like, there's two levels of delusion.
I don't know. I kind of feel like if it really matters to people, maybe they're just going to keep finding a way. There are artists who did not have a single work purchased until they were 60. Right. There are people who published their first book at 50. Like, imagine if they stopped. Imagine if the 400 person said, listen, you are not paying the mortgage this way. You should stop writing, or you should put down the acrylics and go and, keep working as an accountant. But it's like, but I hate accounting. Some people love accounting and they should do accounting, but sometimes I think we push people to do the thing that's easy and we stop people from being great because it doesn't fit our worldview.
Right.
Like, I think that the idea of that we probably need to know when to stop totally fits in a world where people could genuinely experience who they are and what they're capable of. But I actually feel like people spend most of the time until they get to adulthood fighting against all of the things that could potentially allow them to figure out who they are. grades and rules and structures and parent expectations, guilty as charged. Conforming into, if you're a night owl and your best work happens when you're super late, you can't even catch your stride because you got to get up for school in the morning at 8 until you can pick your courses for university and actually pick night classes. So what if in fact, and we're getting real Pollyanna here for a second, what if in fact people really were able to have this blank canvas to have access to the people and the resources that could help them be great?
Right.
If you have world-class musicians by the time they're 18, it's because they had the best teachers. They had the best coaches. They had parents who let them come out of school early and practice 8 hours a day and try different instruments and just like they put the time and the energy in. If you watch a world-class ballerina on the stage, their parents gave up a heck of a lot of time and money and energy. That's parents' sweat equity on that stage, not just them. So
it is interesting, by the way, that we, on your point of the idea that we have all these rules in place, as we grow up, and then, when we're at adulthood, we try to tell people actually there are no rules, and then it's like wait, we've grown up. We've grown up like thinking that there's all these rules and systems and we have to conform. When you get to you're 22 years old and you're at a conference and somebody's up there like there are no rules.
Yes.
Like what?
Yes.
No, but
I'm pretty sure I've been living with rules since the minute I could spell. Yeah.
But okay, so I agree. I guess there's some things where it's like, if you're 5'8" and you're playing basketball and you're 40 years old, you're like, okay, this NBA thing is not going to happen, even though I want it to happen. And by the way, I can't shoot. Sports.
I gave my husband a bloody nose when I played basketball with him, and he still married me. So I hear you. I don't have the sporty spice thing happening.
So I agree with you, and I think going back to the idea of failing, I think the people that are, they're continuing to work on something, maybe they're not failing enough. Maybe they're not trying different avenues of how to do that thing in better ways. So I think that's another point. The other thing I'm obsessed about when it comes to greatness is the idea of windows, like windows of opportunity.
Yeah.
Like when do you recognize that you have this like window of opportunity that you need to double down or triple down and like invest in this window and say, okay, how do we maximize this window?
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't know, like I think of this moment that I'm in right now in the last couple of years. Like, I feel like I'm in the window. I don't know how long the window is. I don't know if I'm in the window. But I have this recognition that, okay, I'm 40 now.
That old?
I know. It's like,
I'm almost 50. I hear you.
So,
we're trying to build like the next portion. We want to capitalize on the window now because we see that there's not an endless amount of time to be able to make your mark in your career. Like, do you feel that sense of pressure? Like, I need to capitalize on all my windows now.
For me, it's like, I just know that, I don't know. It's that's why I'm asking the question, because it's like, it's almost a gut. I can't even say that if it's based on my age or based on where I'm at. I just feel like it's a gut instinct when you're like, I'm in my window of opportunity to make an impact on this world. So it's like, why wouldn't I don't want to sit at home and think about like what could have been. Like, this is my window. I should take advantage of this window. But how do I know that I'm in that window, right? When do you know that? To me, it's just gut. I don't think you can point at something and say, you're in the window. You should take advantage of it. I only mention this because I remember there was this moment. I was at this conference and there was this DJ there that's in the city. He's seen all these greats, Lady Gaga, Justin Bieber come through. He's been associated to all of them. And we were sitting beside each other, and there was this band, a bunch of brothers, really talented, super talented brothers. And he pointed at them and he said, this band, if they don't get the right management, they're going to ride in obscurity. This is their window now. They're not going to be as hot as they are now. They need the right direction in order to like take over the universe.
Right.
But if they don't have that, they're done. And he's like, I've approached them to help manage them, but their parents don't want this to happen. And I'm like, so fascinating that this guy can see that this group of brothers have this window. It's like he recognizes the greatness and he recognizes the window because he's maybe seen so many other data points of them, people not taking their shots at that time.
Yeah.
I keep going back to that because I'm like, it's such a fascinating concept.
Yeah, it's almost like what you're talking about where there are people who are truly great.
Yes.
And he's truly great at spotting talent. He's had a lot of experience. He cares deeply about it. He's passionate about it. He obviously loves music. He may have this whole other cool set of experiences that allows him to actually be a legitimate gauge of talent. So I totally hear what you're saying around talent and the windows, because it's about not just recognizing them, it's being willing to step through them. So when we're talking about failure, if you walk through that window, it could be the wrong window. It could be a really tough climb up that window. You may not like what's on the other side. You may have to come right back because now that window burns you. Because let's face it, not everybody is there rooting for you in an ethical way. I hate to say it, like you don't just blindly go through windows. Like no problem, it'll all work out. That's toxic positivity. It's more use it, and that's where I think the word gut works. We have three brains. We have our head brain, we have our heart brain, and we have our gut brain. And our gut brain has as much neural connectivity as our brains. And it's our gut brain is about instinct.
Really?
Yeah. So there's all kinds of super cool science that we in the coaching world have studied up on.
Yeah.
So your gut is actually a brain. It's your third brain. Your heart, your cœur is courage. Heart means cœur is the French. So you've got three different brains, and when you leverage the instinct combined with your experience, that's when you have perhaps the your courage, your heart brain to be able to go forward, and then you use all the things that you've learned to be able to make the most of it. Right. You have to be willing to, I think, look around and find the windows. So when we're talking about how you showed up in COVID, you didn't say, I'm going to wait this out. I spoke with other speakers. They were going to wait it out. They said no to the biggest contracts because they wanted to be on the stage in person. That was their path. I'm not saying it was a bad path. I don't know what happened with those stages. Probably they did get on that stage, but it lasted way longer than we expected. Yes. And think about how much more you and your team just smash it in content curation and showing up. You even told me that you see yourself as a content expert who speaks. I mean, that you practice that. You stepped into the window. COVID created this really weird, unexpected opportunity for you to be a content curator. And I say curator because you tried so many different things. Yeah. And that's where I think it's about windows, is being willing to look for them, step through them, close the door on it if you're like, that person's no good for me. Close the door, close that door so fast. Right. And that's where, you and I have often talked about how we have very different speaking businesses. We run them differently. We serve different clients. Obviously, what we talk about is different. But they're both successful, and they both have a long runway to them. Yes. But if you had told me how to build my business and I told you how to run the business, it probably wouldn't have quite worked. Because even if the window had opened, it wouldn't have been the right window. Exactly. So, well, I mean, on that note, I think I just think that the speaking business is it's actually just it doesn't make sense. It's the weirdest. It's the weirdest business in the world because there actually is no playbook. There is no blueprint, and in fact, speaking with other people that are successful in the space, literally everyone is running around with completely different blueprints. Yeah. And that's actually exciting, is that there is nothing that, it's actually based on the individual and what works for you. I've seen so many people that just are running around with different types of, that's why I think all the advice is like,
mute because it's like everyone's running their own playbook.
I think it's great to be a student of other people's craft and other people's business to try to understand, not to replicate it, but to say, like I watched a lot of what you and your team were doing and how it evolved. And I went, And so now every opportunity I have, I bring a videographer with me. You and I share, I think, a videography, agent list, people that we've worked with. And so I'm, that was a really good idea. I wasn't ready for it at the time. When I experienced you doing that, I didn't understand it because I didn't have a frame of reference. There's the frame, right? Windows and frames.
Right.
However, if you're curious about it, you need to keep chasing. What is it about that is interesting? What is it about that works? What is it about that could work in my business? And I love it now. I mean, it's a way for me to actually recognize and value my clients because now I can tag them, and that's a form of recognition. I know you do that too. It's also a way for me to do a give back because I can physically give them the video footage and say, you don't have to pay for this. I will find the person. You don't have to organize it. So that's how we've kind of articulated that. I wouldn't have thought to step through that window had I not seen you do that already. So
I
thank
appreciate
you for that.
Well, it's I think it's in the reason why I do it is because to me it always made sense. I don't know. To me it's logical. It was just I'm putting all this effort into this. I'm like, these people are just the only people that are going to see this.
Yes.
This should go out and this should impact more people, right? And I literally still run the same playbook today, which is like, let's shoot something and record it. And that's part of the reason why we want to do, we went to the theaters during COVID and shot, keynotes in there. It's because, and so we're still doing it to this day. Because actually when you put out that content, whether it's in the world or even afterwards, it looks amazing, and people are more willing to take in those ideas when it looks amazing, and I don't know, that's just part of it.
I think it also empowers people who really get what you're all about, what you're trying to do, and their organization doesn't have a window yet. It allows them to create a window in their ecosystem to have enough curiosity. So I actually feel like these meaningful pieces of content from other people's investment in their disruption and innovation journey allows people who are the disruptors, the bold ones, to say, see, here's what might be possible. Here's what maybe we should consider. And that's the company that in 5 years from now, they'll be calling you. But imagine if you didn't put that piece of content out today from somebody who was ready to help the disruptor, the bold one in their organization, to help the less bold ones become more bold.
Right. I love that. I want to get to the speaking thing as well, because this is just therapeutic, by the way.
This is very therapeutic. Because who gets our business? This is like not a lot of
I already got some answers around the book, which is great. The other thing that I wanted to ask you was about I saw this content from you around whether it's bad bosses or negative bosses, and I believe that a bad boss can be a gift, because then you truly understand who is a good leader or not, or understand what you shouldn't be doing. And I know I don't know, have you had a bad boss in your
Oh, why do you think I do what I do, my friend?
Wow.
Yeah, this is literally...
Give me an example. Give me a story.
Oh, my gosh. My husband and I worked for Satan's mother when I was 18. So he'd finished college. My husband's 8 years older than me. And we worked together all summer. And literally what bonded us was trying to duck and weave away from this evil, terrible person. I mean, she bullied people. She would throw things at us. She would blame us.
She would throw things at you?
Throw things at us.
Oh my goodness.
If there was a dirty roll up, the silverware in the napkin, they call that a roll up.
Yeah.
All of your hospitality folks will know what I mean by a roll up.
Yeah.
If it was dirty, and she found it, she would throw it at the closest person, even if we didn't roll it up.
Yeah.
But she probably actually didn't pay for the napkins to get cleaned, which is why they were dirty. So we're rolling up dirty napkins and putting it on the tables.
Wow.
Yeah. So I feel like this was our survival story. So yeah, she was one of the worst bosses.
But was that a gift?
Well, it was in the sense that I said to my husband, like,
Did you meet your husband there?
I did meet my husband there. I mean, yes, it was. We actually had worked together. We met very briefly years before that, but we didn't really know each other. But he's recognized me. I was a very hard worker, like, you're a hard worker, and he recognized me right away. And he said, "Sarah, are you looking for a job?" And I said, "Yes." He's like, "Oh, it's me. It's Mark." I'm like, "Hey, you." If you have somebody who is in a position to hire you, you got to real fake that whole not recognizing them thing. So, yeah. So he hired me on the spot. Didn't tell me, though, that the boss was the worst human being who has ever...
Wow.
I shouldn't say the worst. There's actually quite a few awful people, but you know what I'm saying. And she was the worst boss. So the gift was that I said to my husband, so I was starting university. I said, I think you need to go back to university because your talent is wasted here.
Right.
I feel, you're stagnant. You're not happy. You've got so much potential. He's like, no, I don't want to go to university. I don't really feel that's my path. I don't really think that I kind of got the smarts. I'm like, listen, if you can keep this place running and you can deal with the hot mess that is this person, you can literally take on anything. And he did. He started university together. I did my undergrad and he went back and he did a second diploma and degree, I should say. So that was kind of a very random example of a bad boss, No,
but so what I'm asking though is that
back on track, Sarah.
What was because you had that boss, was it a gift in the sense that, I mean, we're always learning, but was that actually pivotal because you're like, actually, I learned what type of leaders are out there, and sometimes it's good to see that.
I agree with the concept that bad bosses teach you how not to be. Not great bosses, like a mediocre boss, a boss who's not organized, micromanages, teaches you like, I'm not going to manage my people that way.
Yeah.
Or it will give you the roadmap of who you want to work for if this person isn't working for you. Because not everybody wants to step into a formal leadership role or work for themselves. What I worry about with a blanket stating that bad bosses can be really helpful is that there's a lot of bosses that have created a lot of trauma for people.
Right.
And I see this in my coaching clients. I see incredibly talented people on their path to greatness. And there was somebody, might have been a peer, didn't have to necessarily be a boss, and they were so detrimental to their sense of self, to their confidence. They played games. There was such an intrusive force to them that it literally, they had to rebuild their sense of self, confidence, purpose. Nobody deserves to treat somebody else that way. And that's, I think, where, to come back to what we were talking about earlier around the importance of untangling our idea of status about titles. Some people have a title and they believe that they can treat anybody any way, anytime, because they are the boss. Those are the bad bosses.
Yeah.
They're the ones who shouldn't have the title. And literally, there are some professional groups that I tell them, you should not hire me because I think you probably are not in a sector where people are going to be receptive to this. I don't want to set anyone up for failure. I won't mention those professions on your podcast, but literally, the leaders of those organizations incentivize people to be competitive, to sometimes be cruel, because culture is who we reward and who we tolerate. And bad bosses who are tolerated teach everybody else that bad behavior is how we get things done.
Yeah.
So I'm probably hiding how passionately I feel about this.
No, that's great. I did not recognize. You're right. Absolutely, a bad boss can severely impact your growth, your mentality. People can get into funks because of a bad situation. So,
But the good news is that when you have not great bosses or not great teams, they can also give you the roadmap of, so what if it were the reverse?
right.
So I love that we're having this conversation, because sometimes people will say to me about, I don't know how to recognize people who are negative, let's say. So sometimes people say somebody who's a bad contributor, that expression, the one rotten apple spoils the bunch kind of
Yes.
thing. Like, people talk about that all the time in teams, and leaders
Yes.
talk about how are we going to get rid of these bad apples? And I'll say, so who's nurturing the bad apple? Who's listening to the bad apple? Who's asking them what's bad around here? Because unless you're a hardcore cynic, like somebody who gets up out of bed to ruin people's days, and most people don't do that. If somebody is being critical, they probably care deeply about that thing. So
Yep.
if somebody's saying, like, why can't anybody follow the policy? I don't understand. The policy's here for a reason. It is creating all kinds of problems. You probably want somebody on that team,
Right.
who cares about quality. And they're the person who, frankly, can hold you accountable. And they're the ones who are going to see that there's a gap. They're the ones who are going to rewrite the policy. They're the ones who are going to keep you honest. They're not the problem. When they are shut down and it becomes this negative environment, it's not the person that's the problem. It's the environment that's the problem. Most things are a process issue, not a people issue. So bad bosses are probably a representation of the environment, that they've been able to continue to thrive and possibly have been able to be rewarded for that bad behavior. So we have to take a good hard look at ourselves as an organization. If we have a whole bunch of bad bosses, we're responsible for that,
Right.
not the people who report to them.
Right. That's interesting. I like that. So what about people that are considered bad bosses, but they are incredible visionaries and leaders, like people like Steve Jobs? People talk about Steve Jobs. They herald his visionary, iconic leadership. But if you read the Reddit comments, they tell him how bad of a boss, how terrible of a person he is. Elon. I haven't heard that many bad things about Elon, but people hate Elon now. Why do we do this though? Why do we praise the people that are visionary, but we push aside the fact that they might be bad people?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two parts. One is about, we do have to work very hard to be good people leaders. So sometimes it's about, we haven't spent enough time really curating and nurturing that, which again could also be a corporate thing. How much do we really value that? If the first thing that gets cut is development, how much do you really care about people? Right? So that's part of it. But the other thing, to come back to our conversation about failure, so Steve Jobs, king of failure. So much so, he got fired from his own company. So he's known as one of the best inventors and visionaries. So probably his people leadership, by the sounds of it, could have used a lot of work.
Yes.
But if his core function in that organization was to be the people leader, then they wouldn't have birthed all these incredible products.
Right.
So I think if we try to have somebody, we put them on a pedestal and they have to be everything. Is there anybody out there? I mean, look at how Ellen was canceled.
Yes.
She said she was amazing for people and kindness, and then it comes out that she's actually a terrible, toxic boss.
I love Ellen, but yeah, I guess she turned out to be a bad person. But I think she's hilarious.
Yeah, she is hilarious.
Yeah.
And so if she was like, I'm going to be the hilarious boss, but by the way, I'm going to throw roll-ups at you, then it doesn't seem like it's in opposition. So I kind of feel like, if you are 100% in with who you are, then maybe you don't have to be apologetic about that. And I'm not saying, again, nobody has the right to treat you badly. You and I are on the same page about that. Your definition of status is about respect. So put that aside. If you are working for somebody who is a true disruptor. They want your team to fail so hard and so often. You also need to have a mechanism to celebrate failures. The biggest oops, the lost bid celebration, like the lost bid wake. When I say bid, I was speaking for destination organizations and like professional sports companies. So they have to do these matches. Well, only like 1 out of 10 matches works. So I said, like, why don't you guys have like bid wakes? So if you were not a bid awake, wake where you celebrate somebody's life and you honor them. Yeah. So if you're like the city of Edmonton and you really thought you were going to get that games and no, they went with another city, you put in a lot of time and energy, and you as the boss, you as the leader said, we're going to try to win this. So you put all your chips on black. It's like, we're going to do this. We're going to win it. We're going to bring it home. And then you don't get it. That's hard. And you keep putting in the bid, and you try again, and you try again, and you try again. And people can lose faith in their leader maybe.
Yes.
If you're not celebrating the losses along the way. So are you, as a leader who's really pushing, not grinding people to the bone so that they never get time with their family and they don't see their value and they feel like they're just on this treadmill of crisis? No. If you are together in it, failing forward together, that's your thrival story.
Yeah.
Those are the bosses that you
100%.
You remember, right?
Yep. No, I love the people that I love leaders and whenever I hear leaders in organizations reward failure, or like literally, like we were just at a keynote with this organization, the WCB in Alberta, and then we were with their IT group. They literally have an award, like physical award, that they give out at every conference that they have annually to people that are making the most shots. And so I love it. I love that. And yeah, so I love it.
It's like, it's which one do we revere? You use the sports reference a lot, I know, in your work, and we've talked briefly about it.
Which one?
So, you talk a lot about like basketball.
Yeah, I love basketball.
I don't even know the acronym to tell you what they are. So this is how unsporty I am. Yes, I'm a dancer. You're into sports.
I'm into sports. Yeah.
So when you listen to the journalists interview people after a game, if they won, it's all about the winning. If they lost, it's all about how they're failures. I love it when the athletes call the journalists out on the narrative. It was the same game. There's only 2 teams.
Right.
Win, lose, or tie. I guess a lot of games you could tie. But why do we have to have different narratives? Like, why are we not curious about the people who are lost? Like, what would you do differently now? If you could rewind the clock 4 hours, what would you do differently?
Right.
Like, you've lost the last 3 games. Not being on a losing streak, you've lost the last 3 games. How's the next one going to be different? There's so much that the answers will probably be the same, but you don't have to tear people down to get the answers.
I agree. But that's the business model of sports media.
Yeah.
Is about narrative. And that's what fuels sports. And actually that's why we're interested in sports, because we love the narrative. So it's actually a vicious cycle. I want one of the things that we do in this pod, actually, and I want to get to the speaking thing, is we actually talk about hot topics. And one of the things that I want to throw at you is Trump recently he announced that there's going to be a new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy. So basically going to look at the federal government and see where they can optimize efficiencies, make it more streamlined. I think Vivek and Elon are going to have a pod talking about all the cost-cutting measures that they're going to go through. What do you think about this?
Okay, so my first reaction is the word patriarchy, but we won't get into politics because we got to be really careful that we aren't just putting very privileged folks of a very privileged class making all these decisions. Just saying. So that's one thing. The second thing is I really hope it's not a PR stunt.
Right.
If you're doing a podcast, if you're like it's hitting the news, you got some real like a face of it. I just, is it sincere? Is it real? So that
seems real.
Hopefully it is.
Seems real.
I mean, and hey, we're all about efficiency. You and I are running businesses. If we didn't have efficient businesses, we wouldn't pay our mortgage. So by all means, like I think there's nobody out there who doesn't believe in efficiency. Those are my first two quick answers. But my really sincere hope is that the 2 million federal workers don't feel like they're being told that they have been messing up, that they're mooching off of the American public. Right. There are 2 million people who probably feel like everything that they work hard for. There are people who leave their family and their tiny kids and find a babysitter. There are people who have missed out on vacations working late. There are people who are working 12 hours a day. They're on the train coming home and they're on their phone. There are hardworking people.
100%.
And how much are those 2 million people feeling like, you know what? I think they're probably going to make my life better and more efficient. I'm guessing, I haven't talked to any of them, I'm guessing they're thinking, see, here we go again, telling us that we are costing the taxpayer money.
Right.
We can't function without people in the civil service. And you and I speak for a lot of them. These are some pretty seriously passionate, hardworking people. If you were working in IT, in government, you could make a heck of a lot more money working somewhere else.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, there's some incredibly hardworking people within all parts of government. And going back to your idea around the environment, I feel like sometimes the environment, the bureaucracy, it somehow twists people into thinking it just does this odd thing where it shapes the work almost. I'll give you an example of this. Like, I can't tell you how many projects that I had at Deloitte where I'd work with a public sector institution, federal government, provincial government, and I would like put up like a PowerPoint deck on the final report that we did.
Yeah.
They would literally have like 25 people in the room, and all we would do is finesse all the words. We would just, that would be the meeting. And then we would have another meeting to just finesse the words. Mm-hmm. You have all these brilliant people. Mm-hmm. They're hardworking people. They're spending an hour of their time to finesse the words on this thing. No. Forget this. This is done. Let's go and execute this. I don't care if it's options. Let's just go and do it. And I saw so much of that inefficiency that I'm like, why do we have all these people here? What are we all doing here? Mm-hmm. There's not enough people that are doing and a lot of people that are watching. And I think if we can turn more watchers into doers, then we can have more an efficient government. And actually, government is incredibly important. We need government. We need government to help enable innovators. And so just being in the belly of many of these organizations, I applaud the idea that they're going to have a group that's going to look at departmental efficiency. And, in Alberta, they called this results-based budgeting. I was part of many of these teams. Did it work? Maybe, maybe not. But I just find it like really fascinating. I'm excited to see what happens.
I will tell you that when my husband and I had our 25th wedding anniversary, we went to Washington, D.C., which is such a cool place. You and your kids.
Yeah, I love Washington.
Like, you guys should do that as a family vacay. So what the Secret Service told us when we were walking around, seeing the Capitol lit up at night and then the White House lit up at night, or, from a distance.
Yes.
He said, do you know that the first 3 months of Trump being in office, we blew our Secret Service budget? So what Obama in his last year was for the full year was what Trump was for 3 months.
Okay.
So again, I don't want to make this like a Trump versus, that's not it. It's it needs to be across the board.
Yeah.
If you are trying to cut costs of roles and professions and are you also going to take a good hard look at the luxuries in the White House? I hope so. Otherwise, it's not fair. And I know people say life is not fair, but if you're literally putting your entire country through the emotional ringer to make it more efficient, then let's make sure everything is being looked at.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. And
It's this is like hot topic.
There should be less steak dinners at the
Less steak.
And the beautiful thing is we're Canadian, so we could just watch and have our popcorn and enjoy it outside. So listen, speaking of money, one of my favorite questions I'd love to ask is this question. LeBron, he spends $1 million on his body every single year because his competitive advantage is the fact that he is so physically gifted, and he continues to propel himself. He's almost 40 years old, and he's still one of the best players in the NBA. He spends $1 million on his body. If you had an extra $1 million lying around, what would you spend that to improve? I'm not saying like buy something like a luxury or anything. Like,
I
to improve
wouldn't even go there.
yourself. What would you spend that extra $1 million on?
So I would spend it, the gift to myself would be to spend it on a really great team.
Yeah.
Because that would free me up to be the creative, to write the books, to improve the thought leadership, to have meaningful conversations, perhaps with groups that couldn't normally afford my fee. So to have the team behind me to allow me to do the stuff that only I can do.
Yeah.
Although it's not spending it directly on me, it is a gift to me.
Yes.
Because I don't have to, because they have got me and
love that.
They are the best in class.
Love that.
And I always hire somebody before I can afford them. So my very first hire was when I started the business. So I started the business incorporated because I knew if I incorporated the business, I would grow into a business being worthy of being incorporated, which meant that I needed to hire a lawyer and an accountant before I even had a client. And if I'm going to have an accountant, I might as well have a bookkeeper. So I hired a bookkeeper. And within a year, I had hired an assistant 5 hours a week and then continued up there from there. I have a full-time learning specialist. She's worth every penny. She's amazing.
Wow.
And people will say, well, how do you afford that? I'll say, I couldn't possibly do what I do. So it's not like this equates to this. It's more, I am able to be present. I'm able to be here with you.
Yeah.
When I'm with my client tomorrow, I was able to say, workshop, keynote, no problem. And how about afterwards? Your recognition champions, we go together for dinner.
Love
or we
that.
go and we grab a coffee, pick my brain about anything. I'm all in for you. And they're like, but that's not in the contract. How much would that be? No, it doesn't matter. My team's got me, so I can be here for them. And when they talk to me about what's going on, I'm going to get better because they're trying to figure out how to implement this in their organization. So now I'm hearing about it real time. So that's what I would do. What about you? What would you? Or would you?
I believe in content so much, so I would just put another mill and I could burn it right away.
Yes. What would you do?
I could burn it right away.
How would you burn it?
We would put it all into like one big production for like a pilot that that may not even get picked up.
Yeah.
That we would just drop it on. That
like
would
an
be
Apple TV.
Yeah, like
Netflix.
a net. Like we would definitely do it on like a pilot for a big streamer or something like that. But yeah, you give me an extra mil, I'll burn it real quick on.
Do you have it? Okay, so I've got $1 million that I'm going to invest in it. What is it going to be? Tell me about it.
So we have a show that we've already kind of written the bones of that we've been delaying like the actual production. It's really been because of my schedule.
Yes.
It's called AI versus humans. And we're gonna shoot it. We were supposed to shoot it this year. Unfortunately, timing, schedule didn't work out. We already have the location, we have the team, they're already ready. And the extra $1 million is just to make the production set even just better.
Yeah.
Right? It's just to make it look cooler. That's it. So.
But I love how you're like, if we're going to do it, let's do it the best we can.
Yeah.
That's why I think you're obsessed with the question about greatness.
Right.
Like, what is greatness? That's greatness.
Right.
We've got the bones, we've got the people, we can do it. But if we had 1 million, oof.
Yeah, we just make it.
And you wouldn't even think twice about it. You just do it.
Yeah, we honestly, like, if somebody just, I would go and say, let's just make this better. Let's get a better set. Let's get a better, let's get better cameras. Let's get better this, and just make it even more extra. I mean, you can go crazy with some of these things. As I learned going through like this media entertainment, that you can make it. So that's what I would do it. Probably put it on more content. I believe that content changes lives. It can change the world. So it's part of the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I
love that.
Let me get to this speaking piece. Would you describe yourself as a performer or a thinker? Because I feel like a lot of people in this world, they see themselves as like a deep, intellectual thinker. Like, I'm a Gladwell, type, or I'm a performer. I'm there to like edutain and inspire. Where did you put yourself?
If you had asked me even 2 years ago, I would have said thinker.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that as I have leaned into who I am, I'm also a performer. Because, and I think that's why we get along, because we are a little quirky. We like to laugh. We like to smile. We want to be in the moment with people. I have gotten off the stage more in the last year than all the previous 8-9 years.
I
get off the stage every single keynote unless I physically
get off the stage.
Find a way to get off the stage. If the energy is low, I will go find the energy. I'll find it. Can I tell you about the cutest thing?
Please.
Okay, so I was speaking for a municipality at an appreciation event 2 days ago, and I asked. It was kind of low energy. They had just come out of a strike, so it was kind of a tough environment. So I was asking people, to think about somebody that they want to really dedicate this award to. There's somebody in their past that invested in them.
Okay.
Teacher, a boss, a colleague, and maybe that person's with you. Like, who do you want to really honor and acknowledge? I've never asked that question before. Who do you want to acknowledge? And this person isn't even around. But I kind of felt like we need to find a muse for motivation. And I got off the stage and people were sharing, and I give a little frog eye mask to people. I brought some to give to your kids.
Nice.
Some fun with that with them. And, so I kind of make it kind of quirky and fun. And then there's this little 8-year-old boy at the back of the theater. We're in this great big beautiful theater, and he's sitting there, and you could barely see his hand come up from. So I beelined it over, and I said, "Oh, hey, bud, well, how's it going?" He's like, "I'm here to celebrate my dad." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, where's your dad?" And he pointed to his dad. I'm like, "What's your dad's greatness?"
Wow.
And he said, "He's my dad."
Wow.
And the whole theater went, "Oh," and they started clapping for this guy.
Wow.
I'm like, imagine if I didn't get off the stage. I would have never met that kid. Nobody would have ever clapped for him. Nobody would have ever clapped for that dad. That 8-year-old's probably going to think, this city's pretty awesome. I want to work here. That dad's super proud. People are going to recognize, like, didn't you have that cute 8-year-old? So that's an example of, I think, leaning into being a performer when the audience needs it.
Yeah.
No,
you're really good. You're really good. Like I saw you, the first time I saw you come off the stage, and I don't do that. I'm trying to think about what I would do. I see the move. It's a really cool move.
You do go off the stage. I'm going to call you in your Apple special.
Yeah, I did. That was like, I don't do that in my actual keynotes. That wasn't a keynote.
I bet you people will love it. If you choose, I invite you to try it.
No, I would do it. It's not that to me, the reason why I typically don't do it, or I don't do it, is because of the production and just the IMAG, the production. Like
yeah. Maybe it's not your thing. That's cool. There's lots of ways to be a performer. It doesn't have to be that way.
But that's really cool that you lean into that. No, I've thought about it. I gotta try it. I gotta try it more. I love it.
You don't have to.
I love the. No,
Get to or want to. Do you want to, or are you like?
I want to try it. I want to just continue to get better.
Yeah.
I want to continue to like improve, build out better bits. I want to continue to write and just improve. So, and on that note, like, what do you do? What do you do to like just continue to improve, and like how often are you changing your keynotes?
Every keynote I tweak something. And I won't say all the standard things that we do as speakers, right? You have a good call and you do your homework and you adjust your things and so forth. What I try to do is I try to think, if people take one thing from this, how can I do it in a way that's much more visual or metaphorical? I used to do it through storytelling, but there's only so many stories you can tell. And I don't want to manufacture a story. You know, I don't want to look around the airport and try to find a good story on the way in. You know, it's not that. It's just if what's going to make people take a picture, write a note.
Yes.
Not because it's about me, but because that is a way that it makes sense to them. And that's what I'm constantly experimenting with.
Right.
So that's the thinking part. You know, when you're saying,
is this like the PowerPoint, the graphics?
Yeah. There might also be just a physical way of demonstrating it. So when my keynote, The Flip Side of Failing, which was my third book, I think, I thought I'm going to practice failing with them. So I've never done it before, but I teach people how to dance 6 really basic hip hop steps.
Nice.
Because I was learning hip hop dance. I'm like, well, I'm really quite terrible at this. Generally, you don't become an amazing hip hopper at 40, and that was very much the case with me. So I went, but that's perfect because, you know, we'll all fail together and it'll give some energy and we'll have fun. And I always check to make sure that this is not going to be an audience where it bombs, because I have had that where we didn't vet.
Right.
Not every audience wants to dance, but they do want the topic. So and then I dance at the end. I'll say like, and I'm willing to dance with failure, but literally dance for you. And so I will do that.
Wow.
And then they will come up at the end. So it's really fun.
You still do this?
I do. So when it's a virtual keynote, there isn't dancing, or when it doesn't seem like it's the right fit for the client, we don't. But a couple of weeks ago, I was delivering this keynote in Charlottetown, and the mayor was in the front row.
Okay.
So I asked the mayor, he's this lovely guy, name is Philip. He's just wonderful. I really loved him. I said, Philip, I'm dancing at the end and I invite people on stage. Do you think that you would come up and dance with me? He said, yeah, of course. I'm the mayor. How many mayors would do that? But he did. Amazing. He literally, him and the MC. And so that's the performance. I wouldn't have given myself the space to try that if I had had to be serious.
I don't know, and that's why we're different. I don't know if I could do that. I just feel like I see the dance. I've seen people in other keynotes make people dance, and I'm not sure.
We all did though. That would be so boring.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's good that you want to do it differently.
Like I know. Do you know Tina?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just met her for the first time in Dubai a couple of months ago. She does this. She gets everybody to do Bhangra. Mm-hmm. Another friend of mine, Erica Dawan, she's also an Indian woman. She also gets people to do Bhangra too. And it's just interesting because you'll see people, and some people really embrace it, and then some people are like, "Shit, I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do
like,
it." Yes.
But yeah, it's an interesting move.
But I try to be like, I also try to weave in the funny, and
yes.
When the phone goes off, I'll say, "See, it's a great point." You just have to just be playful in the moment, and
yes.
I honestly feel like that's part of recognizing the audience. Like I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
I'm not up here talking down at you. That's partly why I get off, personally for me, why I get off the stage. And it's actually interesting how when I didn't feel I earned the right to be on the stage, I did get off the stage. And part of my I think I've noticed that I'm more confident post-COVID. I wasn't confident post-COVID immediately. I will be very clear. There was about a year there where I was rusty as the Tin Man, and it did not feel natural to be actually in person with people. But I actually feel like just me as a person, and I talk about recognition, I talk about human connection.
Yes.
So I think that's maybe where getting off the stage works with my brand, because if I'm saying you should connect and I physically get off the
Right.
stage and I look you in the eye and I use your name and I high five you, and there's this one gentleman a few weeks ago, I gave him a high five. He goes, "Ooh, that's crisp," and I'm like, "What's crisp mean?" And we just stopped. We just broken the content. What does crisp mean? When your high five's crisp, like it snaps. I'm like, "Show me." And we did it like 3 times, like crisp. And then we just kept doing crisp refer backs throughout it.
Nice.
And it was just, I will probably never say the word crisp in a keynote ever again.
So how come I don't see a lot of that? I don't see a lot of the, maybe, I mean, we're just inundated with a million things. I don't see a lot of that, the off stage on your social.
I'm not rocking the content as much.
Because that stuff
clearly.
is incredible content, right? It's spontaneous, it's improv. Am I correct? Like, you don't post a lot of that?
Yeah, you know what? I think probably it goes back to your point around it's hard to capture that footage. So we always have one camera. When I'm allowed to have videographers, we have one camera that's roaming, and we get the audience, or me with the audience, or me on stage, and then one that's stationary. Usually we do 2 cameras. So it's pretty tricky to catch a moment like that. So that's probably...
I would say that is you got to post that stuff. That is amazing.
You know what?
That is incredible.
Thank you. I'm officially going to ask for them to find the weird, quirky moments. Thank you for that.
That's what people would be. That's what I would love to see, because people are waiting for that content. See how I'm thinking about content.
I love it. Content.
It goes to my next point around Q. Do you do Q&A?
Do not.
You don't do Q&A. I thought you would crush Q&A. Why don't you do Q&A? You want to leave people on a high.
I don't do Q&A, and I'll give you an example why. And actually, I keep wanting to reciprocate all these questions, so you're going to have to come on my podcast so that
Please,
I
would love that.
Questions,
that would
and I get to ask you.
Yeah.
Because now I'm having all this, this FOMO that I'm now not hearing your answer. So yeah, or you'll have to voice dictate.
No, wait.
Really long
So yeah, you don't do Q&A.
Yeah, don't do Q&A.
Why?
So yesterday, my friend and I went to see Ryan Holiday.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So we did a really powerful 70 minutes and then Q&A.
Wow, going from Ryan Holiday to Shawn, it's up and down. Life is
It's
up and down.
up.
Nice.
Seriously, my friend,
Yes.
you were my first stop.
I appreciate it.
Friends, I got off the airplane and came right here. I
Thank
texted
you.
Shawn, please still make room for me. My flight's delayed.
Nice,
Seriously,
nice.
You are absolutely and I'm not just saying this because I'm in the room. I've told you this many times. You are one of my absolute all-time favorite speakers.
I appreciate
recommend
that.
you all the time.
Thank you.
Seriously, you did a better job than he did. Don't
Yeah.
tell Ryan I said that.
So
sorry. So the reason why I mention him is because he let Q&A, finished his 70 minutes, went to Q&A. Half the questions were terrible.
okay.
And part of what made them terrible is people were trying to make themselves sound amazing.
Right.
One guy basically was doing an advertisement for himself. One other woman, you had clearly seen that she had practiced that a million times. People were walking out. It wasn't interesting. We came for him. We didn't come
Right.
for and they weren't even showboating everybody. But some questions were like, I don't even understand. That guy's obviously a philosophy professor. I don't even understand what he said. Q&As have to be, in my experience, really lovingly curated. They're, just doing it off the cuff. And then it's awkward if people don't get up. If you don't have one person, then people don't get up. So that's been my experience. But what I do instead, and then I want to know about you in Q&A, please, because you have a very different experience, and I can't wait to.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
you know what? Tell me how you feel about Q&As, and then I'll tell you what I do instead.
well, number one is I don't think I'm good at Q&A. So that's why I want to do
Pourquoi?
Q&A. I am not the reason why I'm in this business is not because I'm articulate. I'm not the best speaker. I'm not the best. I'm just not the most concise, articulate speaker on the planet. The reason why I'm in this business is because I have ideas and I have energy, and I'm just curious. So when someone asks me a question, it's obviously not a crafted piece. And so I tend to ramble. I tend to think through my answer. I'm just not, it's not something that I'm great at. And I see other people that are really great at Q&A. My go-to Q&A person is Seth Godin, great marketer, philosopher.
Yes.
The way that he answers his questions is phenomenal. And I have been trying to just get better at Q&A, not by predicting what the question is going to be, but trying to structure my response in the most succinct, still thought-provoking. I still want to like make the audience feel something. I want it to be funny and impactful. I want that experience to be the same. And so that's why I'm always trying to get better at figuring out how to respond and structure my responses in a way that is still compelling, funny. And so that's why I do it. I want to get better at it. And I feel like, just like speaking, you're not going to get better at something unless you do it and put yourself in different environments. Now, I have had Q&As that have gone off track. Most of them are great. Like 90% of them are great. There have been a couple times where it's like, somebody wants to just flex, right? They want to peacock. I openly say at the beginning, I want you to disagree with me. We're gonna have a Q&A at the end. If you disagree with something, I want you to stand up and tell me that you disagree. There was a time where there was somebody that stood up and he went on for 2-3 minutes talking about how you disagree with me, but also like kind of was being condescending and insulting me. Now, you could imagine an amazing keynote. Everyone's on a high. Somebody comes up and he wants a peacock. It actually shifts the energy in the room, right? And actually, I feel like a keynote, I'm going to stop, but I feel like a keynote is, we're very, the way that we perceive something, I feel like we perceive something in a group setting. Like if something is really funny and everyone is laughing, people come away being like, oh, that was really funny. But if the energy of the room was not, it wasn't conducive to a funny environment, but you think it's funny, but people don't think it's funny, you're not going to think that it was funny, even though you thought it was funny. Do you know what I mean? It's like the group energy and the group vibe dictates what you're going to think. So if somebody stands up and shifts the room as if it was now a bad keynote or it was not in line with what they were thinking, then the room is going to think that.
Yeah.
So that's the disadvantage of doing Q&A. It doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen if somebody wants to peacock. But that's why I do Q&A.
Yeah, I think that we could have a more valuable solution for our event professionals to consider than just a random Q&A.
Okay.
I love the idea of somebody, and preferably not somebody who is the top brass, unless it is like a big passion project of theirs. But imagine a high top table entering on the stage, high top chairs, right? So on either side. So somebody could ask the questions, and those could be crowdsourced questions. Post your question to the app, or write your question on a card on the table. We're going to collect them, and then they are vetted for ones that serve the audience, and for maybe something that is a common theme, and somebody who feels comfortable asking questions can be the one asking them, and also not taking the room and using it as a platform. You don't like it?
I've seen that. I mean, I was in Tucson on Monday. They had cards that people would fill.
Yeah.
And somebody picked up the cards and they gave it to the moderator. I've seen the app. I've seen other. It's not as authentic as getting it from the horse's mouth, right? It's not as authentic as somebody getting up and just sitting up and asking the question, which is actually part of the spontaneity and the surprise. You're like, oh, how is somebody going to respond to this person? So it's not as exciting.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't make as much great content.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the other thing.
That's true. I haven't thought of from a content. I usually ask for the full time. So
Yeah.
if they say you have a 90-minute slot, I said, fantastic. I would love all 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing. We'll do an exercise in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I'll have them create their greatness business card, and I'll go in the audience and have them read about their greatness to the rest of the audience, and they'll be cheering for each other, and we'll get great content that way. So I'll just work in an exercise that if I had a whole half day or a full day or a breakout session with people, we would have done it there. But since we only have a keynote, so they'll be like, really? That's 90 minutes. That's a long time. Nope, it's perfect. I want it all. And if anything, it's just like one question at the end. So yeah, I dissuade people from including Q&A.
Interesting.
And it's not that I wouldn't do it. It's just, and you know what? Here's where maybe our topics are different.
Yeah, right.
Is that probably you need people to be disruptors. You want to empower people to be bold ones. So it literally is part of the experience. What I'm hoping people leave with is they want to go immediately and recognize somebody. I give them, there's compliment cards. You saw those on the table at the event that you and I spoke at together. I will give them a challenge, such as to go and text somebody that they love, or that. Maybe write a testimonial for somebody that on LinkedIn that they no longer work with or that they used to work for. So I'll give people a call to action related to recognition. So I'd rather them use the time for that. But again, that's my topic. That's not probably what would work for yours. So
yeah. Well, I just enjoy the spontaneity of the Q&A. I want to improve again.
Yeah.
I want to be better at
You're always
Q&A.
improving.
Yeah, I'm just trying.
You know what? And can I just say, it's good that you're not perfect.
Yeah.
Because you're real. Because it's really hard to learn a difficult concept to really take the challenge to do something differently if the person who's asking you to do it seems like they've got all of their sorted out.
Right.
You know? It's almost like when you're going to your doctor, and your doctor's like, they run marathons, and you could just tell they just did their colonoscopy. You just know it. You know their blood work's amazing. You're like, I don't even want to have this exam. You're going to look at me. You're going to think I'm like a schlep. Whereas if your doctor says, yeah, I get pain in my knee too.
Yes.
Or, well, when I didn't take care of myself, I was getting a lot of headaches. And now you're like, oh, this is a real person with a medical degree. So I feel like you're actually doing a service to your audience by not having a polished answer, especially since people think us speakers, they don't so many people say to you, I could never do what you do.
Right.
Don't you feel nervous? You must be so uncomfortable. So it also breaks that mental script that people have of like, we've got some kind of magical superpowers.
Right.
We just don't mind possibly embarrassing ourselves in front of
100%.
large groups of people, and we do it a lot.
And I think actually it's funny because the most common answer that I give when somebody asks me a question is, I have no idea. Mm-hmm. And actually that is, it builds a lot of trust, because it's like, people ask me a question about something about their industry or something about something else, sales. I'm like, I don't know. This is not my area. And I think it creates a lot of trust in that way. So I'm going to continue to do it. I don't like doing it at the end of a keynote or at the closing, because I think everybody should leave on a high.
Yes.
But
a high and a focus.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're going to do next.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I was just curious. And the other thing that I was curious about when it comes to this like industry is that I told you this at the beginning of our conversation, is that such a weird blueprint. There's no blueprint. There's nothing that works. There's no playbook to this. Mm-hmm. And I find that really inspiring. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you can just make it how you want it. Mm-hmm. You work with a bureau. You're exclusive. You're not exclusive. You're do direct. You have a speaker manager. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah,
it's all over the place. And you have a speaker manager, right?
I do.
Why do you have a speaker manager?
I have a speaker manager because, and it's similar really to the idea of if I had $1 million, where would I spend it? That's part of where I would spend it, is to have somebody who really truly knows what I do and
Right.
who I do a great job serving and helping them understand how it could add value to their events. So the speaker manager relationship works well for me because she only represents 7 of us.
Yes.
So she knows us very well. And because she is so deeply immersed in the clients being successful, then they fall in love with her. And so she will often book people, year over year or many conferences. And, I think what's so great is it allows me to feel confident that she'll never put me on a stage because somebody needed that spot filled, or because they had my fee. She'll always make sure that I'm the right person for them and they're the right person for me, and we're the right person for each other now. And so, and I mean, I have the privilege of working for bureaus too. We're represented by the same bureau. So
tactically though, a lead comes into your inbox and it
immediately goes to her,
or does it go to your speaker manager immediately?
It depends on where it comes from. So if it's a repeat booking, if it's a past client, if it's somebody on my website, it'll come to me, and then whoever's answering my inbox will send that to Tammy. If I get a card.
By the way, I love Tammy. She's awesome.
Yeah, I know. You've worked with her.
Yeah. She's incredible.
At the bureau. So, so all of those, it could be no joke, my neighbor hired me a few years ago, and I took his card and I gave it to Tammy and I made the introduction, which is so hilarious. Like we could have had a barbecue and worked out like the deal, but no, we've got a whole system.
How do you deal with those, by the way?
Oh,
when your
like
neighbor,
any other client.
When your neighbor like reaches out, they're like, yeah, but can we get a deal?
He invested more in his neighbors to speak than he's ever invested in anybody else, because
that's amazing.
I deserve to be paid what I'm worth because I have 25 years
100%
of speaking. And
I just
education.
find when people I know that ask me, number one, all my friends know that, because a lot of my friends get hit up like, oh, can you get Shawn to speak? Blah, blah. They're like, guys, you're not gonna be able to afford him, so they just like push it off. They don't they're like, we're not gonna even ask you. And then when there are like close contacts or acquaintances that do reach out, I don't even answer it. I just forward it to Marnie or whoever.
Exactly.
Like, hey guys, can you guys take this?
Well, and
so I don't even see it because I don't want to. I don't know, maybe because I just don't want to let somebody down.
Yes.
And that's my problem. Is I want to like please everyone. And especially when it's a close acquaintance, like literally, anyway, so.
You had the neighbor situation.
I did have like a neighbor situation. And I just, I'm so glad. I'm actually happy that it doesn't work out. I don't know, I feel weird. It feels off. It feels weird because they're paying for something that, I don't know. It's just.
Well, you'd probably be willing to have it's like have my wife and I over for dinner, and then I'll have a conversation with you. But I know if
100%.
somebody was buying me dinner and they're my friend, my neighbor, I'd totally give them all my information. But if you want me to be in front of your entire organization
100%.
and block a day and get there and, plan the content and having planning calls, like that is, I am not going to do less for you because you're my neighbor.
Yes.
So I wouldn't expect them to not invest in that. And you and I both experienced that people believe when they invest in something rather than just pay a fee, when they invest in a solution, they take it seriously. So I kind of feel like I am robbing people of the opportunity to take themselves, their business, the reason why they're bringing me in seriously by always being so quick to cut a deal. It's not that we're just trying to, get wealthy. That's not it at all. It's that if we are going to do our very best for people, and frankly, to be available, that if we book something in next October and then other people come next October, we don't want to resent the client that we said, sure, I'll do that as a favor for you. Because then you're like, oh man, I could have paid my mortgage a little easier, you know. I'm that's maybe making it sound a little bit trite, but You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they deserve to treat us with respect. We deserve to treat them with respect. And you know, when people tell me that not-for-profits and charities and healthcare, they don't pay speakers, I'm like, but why would you rob them off of the opportunity to invest in their people? So why don't you let them decide what their budget is, rather than assuming that they are in a, you know,
100%.
I actually personally don't feel, I felt really awkward about money for the first half of my speaking business. And the second half, I don't so much. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't ever. It's just, I know how much my master's degree cost. I know how much time I put into this business. I know how much it costs to run my business. So,
And how much value you're actually giving to the people that are in the audience. And, you know, you could be making multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar impact in that room that they don't know yet. So
that's actually
cool.
how I started. I had a very unusual circumstance, a training session with 8 people. And it was another speaking colleague who had asked me to do it because it was a different area of expertise. So I went and I did my thing. So I started by saying, let's find out how much money this problem is going to cost you if you don't stay in the room. Like if you didn't come today. So we have a calculator, a cost of turnover, and we also have a cost of disengagement turnover that we've used the research, we dug into it, and we've built a calculator. 8 people, it may seem like, oh my gosh, we've put, you know, it's a 5-figure investment to have us in the room, not to mention travel. They had a $500,000 turnover problem.
Wow.
When we calculated it for disengagement, and this is not an additive, this is part of the dollars, $350 million or $350,000 problem. So I said before I even started my session, do you feel like the investment was worth it? And they said yes. If we fix this even a little bit, and it's not about getting your money's worth. That's not it. It's about taking the opportunity seriously. They have flown from Boston to come here, and I tried to do Boston accent.
That was good.
They're like,
it was
what
good.
was that?
It was good.
What was that? I don't understand. So yeah, it was to set the table of taking everything that they possibly could to apply it and implement this as a culture strategy. This was not doing leadership development. This is about transforming expensive, negative, possibly toxic problems that not only are costing them already what you know is half $500,000. What's it going to be in a year from now if you weren't here?
Right.
So that was my next question. I said, what will be different a year from now when you don't have a $500,000 problem? And I mean, then they told me what the script was.
And they gave you a $500,000 right there.
So
That's amazing. No, it's incredible, and that shows the impact that you're making when you're in the room. So yeah, you should be paid what you're worth. I think it's.
As should you, my friend.
I think that's great. Well, listen, I want to thank you, and I know you're the master at thanking. By the way, you're the master at thanking.
I actually did bring a thank you.
You did? What do you mean? What do you got?
Well, I have a few things.
You got a few things?
I have a few things.
I knew.
I mean, first of all, I have a thank you card. And I would invite you to, if you want, you don't have to read it, but you may want to open it.
I would love to read it.
To have the full immersive.
Yeah, I want to read it. I want to read it.
You've been frogged.
Okay.
Forever recognize others' greatness.
Okay.
Let's see.
I didn't have, okay, what is this? Okay, this is, see this?
Oh, there's something in it.
There's something in it, okay. Dear Shawn. Dearest Shawn.
Dearest.
Thanks for inviting me into your delicious studio for a good dish on the wild and wonderful ride that is the speaking biz. You've been it's been a career high. This is, by the way, this is handwriting.
I have terrible handwriting.
So, I love this because handwriting is a lost art. But it's been not only writing, but also reading. It's been a career highlight. to see your growth, and always, Sarah. Thank you so much. And this
It's the others. Flip it around, my friend.
Bold One Meets Frog Lady, November 2024. I love this. And these are
If you flip them around, those
Okay,
are,
these-
there's
okay.
52 compliments, and I had to stop when there's so many compliments I wanted to give you, but each one of
so
those.
these are compliments that you're giving me.
For you. Those
Oh,
are compliments.
wow.
If you turn them around, those are the compliments
Okay, hold on. Okay.
that I really feel you need to take in.
I'm gonna take these
And
in.
absorb
Okay,
it.
Number one, never underestimate the power of compliments. Oh
Yeah,
so
oh, yeah, that's the back,
This is
yeah,
this is the
yeah.
back. You are naturally lighthearted and fun to be around.
True?
Thank you.
True?
You deserve the admiration and affection people have for you. I'm honored to experience life's joys with you. You are incredibly smart and hardworking. You lead a full and fascinating life. I always value having you on my team. You are an avid learner with a conviction to discover. You make a truly profound difference in so many lives. This is incredible. I'm in awe of your limitless determination and energy. This is incredible. This is incredible. Thank you so much.
You're
buddy.
welcome, my friend.
This is awesome. This is awesome. This is so
And
nice.
you can go out and frog people now because
Oh.
here you got your own deck.
Okay,
Keep those,
yes.
a little fresh deck, and here's a little something that you can do for your wife.
Okay, what is this?
This is a little passion project that we took on this summer. I
This
hired
is
my
Your Already Greatness, a thank you card book.
the
Okay.
world's greatest thank you card.
Okay.
So
So this is a book that I give to people if I want to thank them.
yeah. So I'm thinking that you could write for your beautiful wife about her greatness. So there are 5 spots with prompts to ask you to talk about, her strengths.
Got it.
Why you value her being, on your team.
Love
you
that.
know, and then she can keep it as a keepsake.
Love this.
And it was designed by my daughter's best friend, who is an artist. So we worked together this summer. I was able to hire a student.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so between my daughter's bestie, Sid, who's amazing, shout out Sid, and my colleague Mallory and I, we worked
Amazing.
on that. And it's like that I think I'm prouder than my last books.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And where can people get this?
Greatnessmagnified.com. I didn't give it to you for that reason, but I just
No,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but people can order it
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
off the website, and they can get one of these. So cool. So do you give this after you?
That is what's in that suitcase. The client that I'm speaking for
Wow.
tomorrow is giving everyone in their organization a thank you card book to write it to somebody that has made a profound impact on their career.
Yeah. Wow. Forget the thank you card. The card. This is a
We're leveling up.
book.
This is something people will never get rid of. You'd have to be a pretty horrible person to get rid of a thank you card book.
I agree, and it's tangible. This is incredible. You're changing the world. I really appreciate you being here, being in Edmonton, to see you again after 5 years. I loved our conversation. It was like therapeutic for me, and yeah, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you guys on the next one.